Hi, welcome to my kitchen. I've been filming most of my videos live ever since I began the channel, so I rarely edit, so this isn't going to be much of a challenge. But the proof is in the pudding, or in this case, a curry. So I'm going to be making a nice staff curry that I witnessed being made personally in Mayor restaurant, Alphastone. You can watch my video of my visit to the restaurant. I go to the restaurant quite often and always pick up some great tips and that type of stuff. So this is a pumpkin and lamb staff curry. I will be posting anything pre-cooked, well, in this case, just the lamb, how you pre-make the lamb, and you'll notice it doesn't look very attractive at the moment. We've got some really great juices there. We've got 2/3 of a cup of tomato puree diluted with about the same amount of water. We've got some pumpkin here. Yes, just the regular pumpkin. So this is about half of a large pumpkin. We've got 2 medium onions finely sliced, and we've got 2 bay leaves, and we've got some washed green chilies with the top cut off, salt to taste. And what this is about half a bulb of garlic, finely chopped after it's been crushed. And the ginger is in paste form, using about 2 tablespoons. And we're going to be using some mixed powder. Use any curry powder you want. And we're going to be using some garam masala. But first of all, let's get a lid on the pan. So first of all, I've got to put my camera on the tripod. Bear with me. So is that a good angle? Right, so let's heat the oil. Let's make sure we got the right ring on first. It's amazing the little differences when you go live. What are all these little options here? Okay, so let's do that. No, it's not butternut squash. Oh, it's good. People can actually speak to me as it's cooking. So we're just going to heat the oil up. So this is live, so I guess I usually make my videos usually about 5 to 8 minutes, sometimes a bit more if I talk. So this is going to be in real time, which is great. And the good thing about it, the lamb is pre-cooked, because that takes an hour and a half at least. So I'm just going to make sure the oil is hot enough. Good thing about using tejpata, Indian bay leaves, they're actually cinnamon leaves, is they don't burn and they give a mild cinnamon flavour. Where's my spoon? So I'm just going to let those heat up a little bit. I think that was a splash of water in the pan there. Can we get a better angle on that? So in with the tejpata, and the great thing about this curry, it's nice and simple. So I'm not used to this wide angle zoom at the moment. I would have preferred to have closed in a little bit, but oh well. So nice and hot. You can see the tejpata doesn't burn. It doesn't burn very easily either. In with the onions, and I've just had a thought. These onions are going to take about 8 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes to saute. And if this is a live video, that's interesting, isn't it? Maybe I should have pre-cooked my onions earlier, because I don't believe you can pause a live video. I might be wrong. This is my first live cooking. So what can we talk about in the meantime? I've got plenty to talk about. So I was going to be making a video about authentic food. A lot of chefs and restaurants in the UK get criticised, sometimes by outsiders who are more acclimatised to authentic Indian food, and they say, oh, that's not authentic, and oh, we wouldn't eat this and this. It happens to all the channels. Go to the comments in the channels. But while those onions are sautéed down, I've got a little list actually that I was going to make a video for. I'm just going to get it. Bear with me. So let's talk about authentic food, so-called authentic food, and unauthentic food. So, authentic food is obviously, the classic Indian dishes cooked in the Indian way, you know, so there's no base gravy, there's no curry powder. You can buy curry powder in India, but you know, it's typically made from scratch. You know, meat is on the bone, fish is darn cut, so they slice it into like coin shapes, so the middle of the fish contains the bones that keeps it together in the cooking process. And then instead of using curry powder in authentic Indian food, they'll use, you know, turmeric, coriander, cumin, chili powder, as opposed to any type of like mixed powder that we're using today, or curry powder. And also, everything's cooked from scratch generally in India, in household cooking anyway. So the tomatoes will be chopped finely or blended. The ginger and garlic is freshly ground or blended. And you can often see in India, anytime you see Indian people cooking, the ginger and garlic paste is usually quite an off brown colour, because they quite often don't even peel the ginger. So in India there's lots of veg dishes, but Indian food has been shaped by a massive range of outside influences over the centuries. You know, it's the cuisine of India has been shaped by invaders, different religions, the climate, the culture, and trade relations. So the beauty of Indian food, it has the unique ability to adapt to even the strictest types of vegetarians, like the Jains, you know, that predominate the population in Gujarat that don't even eat garlic and don't even eat onion because it invigorates the libido. So, you know, that's Indian food. You know, you've got Islamic Indian food, Hindu Indian food, you've got meat-eating Indian food, lacto-vegetarian Indian food where they incorporate paneer, eggs, cream, that type of thing. So the beauty of Indian food, it can adapt. But 70% vegetarian in India, but a lot of vegetarians, as you'll speak to people, especially from developing countries, they consider chicken, not, you know, the consumption of chicken, not to call themselves carnivore. So you get people from the Caribbean, people from India, you know, they call themselves vegetarians, but you see them eat chicken. So you've got a wide range of chicken dishes in India. So each region in India is unique. You know, in the south, you've got tropical climate, lots of coconut oil, lots of tamarind, you know, recipes made from very imaginative lentil dishes and dosas like idli, and you know, lentils are really used imaginatively. In the north, you've got Mughlai, or cuisine influenced by the Mughals, which were a Turco-Persian group. You know, they built the Taj Mahal. There's my onions on the sizzle on the edges, so give that a good stir. Let's turn the heat down, and it's a good idea to always, in many cuisines, to have the salt. So the onions. So yeah, the North Indian cuisine, very dominated by the Mughlai invasion, and obviously Punjabi cuisine, so the massive influence on much of the food in northern India. You know, with its cream, with its you know, dal makhni, that type of thing. You know, you've got the northeast, which is predominantly Christian. You know, they have a lot of missionaries from Europe, as they did, went to the northeast of India, which is on the outskirts of you know, China and Myanmar, and the population's mainly Christian. So there's a lot of pork dishes in the northeast, and they use things like you know, bamboo shoots, fermented soybeans, and the food's really simple. Then you've got like places like Goa, Portuguese influence, obviously Vindaloo and that type of thing. And then, you know, in all the ports in India, with trade relations over the centuries, particularly with China, which has a big impact on food anywhere it goes, you've got Indian, Chinese, Indo food. And, you know, people criticise chefs in the West that are following the more Anglo or British Indian food and saying, oh, that's not authentic, that's no good, and they criticise it. But what's really interesting is, if you think about what authentic Indian food is, you know, tomatoes, chilies, blah, 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 a lot of those ingredients were taken to India by, you know, European explorers in the late 15th century. So you have a whole load of food introduced into the Indian food chain, things that we typically think are Indian, only 500 years ago. So, you know, chilies, tomatoes, guava, chicken even, that's from the New World. That was all brought there a long time ago. So, you know, even authentic's not authentic. You know, it's like what is really authentic? So, you know, in the last like 80 years, so many Indian people have left India and they've gone to many countries in the world: South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, United Kingdom, obviously, Trinidad, Suriname, Jamaica, and then you've got a lot of Indian influence in the UK food. And we've got a curry house absolutely everywhere. So what we're going to do now is just soften the pumpkin, and we can add the ginger and garlic. It's all going to be slow cooked. Ginger and garlic, and we need a little bit of water to loosen up the mix. I'm just going to give that a good stir. I'll get back to the subject in a moment. It's all going to be really nice and softened. The lamb is super soft already, but it's going to get even softer when we add it. So I think this video is going to go on for about another 15 minutes, possibly. So where were we? Anglo-Indian food. So that's the subject of criticism for me. On some of my videos that I'm making, you know, British Indian restaurant food with base gravy and everything pre-cooked. But it is a very sophisticated system, and the relationship with Indian food over the last 60 years, particularly in Britain, has been really popular. But I would say there are about 2 or 3 different Indian restaurants, types of restaurants in the UK. You've got, you know, if you go to Middle England, Norfolk, for example, there's not many Indian people there. You go to most of the small towns, there's no Asian community, if you like. So a lot of the food there is Anglo-Indian because that's what people in England like. And then you've got the cities where you have larger Asian communities, you know, Leeds, Bradford, Sheffield, Manchester, Bristol, London, where you've got authentic Indian restaurants that are catering for Indian people. But what's really interesting is you see the restaurant reviews and people say, oh, that wasn't authentic Indian. Of course it wasn't. It was a little country town in Norfolk. Of course it wasn't authentic Indian. It was probably ran by Bangladeshi people. It's pure, authentic Bengali, Anglo food, if you like. Because remember that Bengal and India were one country before the partition. 1971, I think Bangladesh became Bangladesh, but it was part of India. So what is authentic? Because as people go to different countries and cook curries, it adapts to different ingredients, different styles of cooking, and it becomes a melting pot of fusion. So, you know, you've got authentic Indian food, which, yes, totally understand. It's cooked in the traditional way that people are fairly accustomed to in India, but even household and household, region to region, it differs. So yeah, you've got authentic Indian food, but you have authentic Anglo-Indian food as well, which is really important. And you've got authentic South African Indian food. It's all different everywhere. So when people start criticising recipes and saying, oh, that's not, that's rubbish, it's interesting because those people do not understand the diversity of Indian food. It can mould itself around any religion, any dietary requirements, and that's the unique success story of it, really. So, those are sweating away nicely. I'm going to add the tomato puree now, and we need to cook that out. Tomato puree diluted with water, and for anybody that's joined me, this is my first live cooking video, so bear with me if you see any rough edges, because if this is going to become something I regularly do, I'll tighten up my procedures, as it were. So we just want to make sure everything's stirred, none of those onions are on the side because they'll burn, so everything into the sauce. It's starting to look like a curry now, but next we're using some mix powder. I'm going to be using probably about 4 tablespoons there. This is going to serve about 4 people, and I want it nice and hearty and nice and spicy. And I'm also, forgive me, using about 2 teaspoons of garam masala that I could have waited until later to add, but it's nice to just bung it in now, and it's grounded whole spices at the end of the day, so it's super tasty. So I'm just going to stir that mixed powder in. I think what I do for my next live video is have everything pre-cooked, because I've sort of painted myself into a corner, doing this quite slow cooking and then going live. I'm not going to abandon ship, I'm going to see the video out. So we definitely need some water there. But what we're going to do, pre-cooked lamb, we're going to be using some of that nice fatty seasoned water from the pre-cooked lamb instead of using water, which is tasteless, just to loosen up the mix. And we need to, burn away the acidity of those that tomato puree. So if anybody has any questions, I do see the questions appear on the screen, so I'm quite happy to do a live Q&A session if you want. So fire away with your questions, as long as they're reasonably sensible. So I'm just going to sweat that all down now. It's going to take some time. That pumpkin's going to take a little bit of time, and it looks like it's going to be really boring to put a lid on it, but I'm not having my kitchen splashed. It's hard enough work clearing up after everything not splashing. So if anybody has any questions, fire away. So for anybody that's just joined, we're discussing one-sidedly what really is in authentic Indian food. I think it's not just Indian food, it can be split into different categories. You've got Anglo-Indian food, you've got Chinese Indian food, South African Indian food, Suriname Indian food, Trinidadian Indian food. It's really fantastic. So there were some questions coming up, I'm not sure. Oh, let's have a look. Okay, thanks for the history lesson. Okay, so what is the thickness of the pan? The thickness of the pan is 3 millimeters, and it's a steel wok. Are you planning on a weekly? Let's have a look. Are you planning on this weekly? I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure at all. Let's have a look. You're saying you're going to speed up your live vid by pre-cooking. I quite like watching you do it. That's very nice. That's very nice. So we're just going to make sure nothing sticks. When it sticks, it burns. We don't want any accumulation of anything burned. So that's looking really good now, even if I wasn't going to add the lamb. But trust me, when I add the lamb, it's going to be super tasty. Let's open the door. My missus gets home from work, and the first thing she smells is a curry, and she's off them at the moment. I'm expecting to have a baby in March, so as my missus is pregnant and we're about halfway, She's gone off spicy food, she's gone off meat, and she's definitely gone off curry. Why not? She's like simple food at the moment. But yeah, I really want to get the kitchen ventilated. So anybody got any questions? I'm happy to try and answer them. I like that on Google. You can ask some people some questions and they go on Google before they answer. Here I am, live and direct. There's no hiding or shying away. So if I don't know something, I'll tell you, but if I do or have an opinion on it, I'll let you know. So that's looking really good. It's a bit thick. It's a bit thick. I'm going to add some more water. Always use something you've already used to add water, because you waste less ingredients. So it definitely needs, you know, a cup and a half of water on that. Now what we're going to do, you notice there's no chili powder and there's very, very little chili powder in the mixed powder. So in with the green chilies for that acidity, and these are pretty hot as well. That's why I've left them whole, so that when this is eaten, they can be taken out or eaten. That's optional. You cut up your chilies really fine, and you're stuck with them. That's a nice rich gravy. Can we get a close up? Can I get the camera any closer? Okay, it's looking a bit flat now because I've added the water, but that will thicken up again. Lamb is how many years old? I'm not really sure. So here's my lamb. I'm not sure. I bought a huge shoulder of lamb, so it's probably from a mature animal, but I know lamb in some places can mean yeah, I've been to Tamil Nadu. I'll talk about that in a moment. So yeah, this is a mature animal, so it takes a lot of pre-cooking. I pre-cook the lamb, I boil it for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. I take it out, I save the juice, then I fry it with some masalas, some more oil and more ginger and garlic paste, and it stores in the freezer. So Tamil Nadu, Sai Ganesh, thank you very much for your question. Yes, I was in Tamil Nadu last year. I always wanted to go to Madras, you know, what we know as Chennai now, and I went all over the markets. I explored. It was really fantastic. I went to some great restaurants. I love idli and dosa and sambar and all those types of southern Indian foods. It was absolutely amazing. So you can check my channel. I have probably around 6 to 10 videos on my trip to Chennai. And I even have a little a video on my last night where I just summarised the trip, said how nice the people were, how nice the food was, etc. So let's have a look at the next question. Where did you get your powders? Well, these powders, this is Taste of India. The only way they sell them is on eBay. They don't have a shop or anything, so it's mail order. I'll put a link on where I get the powders from in the description of the video, which I'll be uploading as soon as this is all cooked and the video is finished. So let's have a look. More questions. Do you make a living off YouTube, or do you work as well? Well, I work as well. I think for you to make a living on YouTube, you need, let me think, you need probably 250,000 views a month, and you could make a reasonably good living on YouTube. But my views are between 50 to 70,000 a month, so I'm very far from making any decent money. I would say the money I make from YouTube pays for the ingredients of what I cook, and that's about it. So I don't really profit from YouTube. So let's have a look at some more questions. So can you prepare Hyderabadi biryani? Yes, if you look back maybe about 10 or 15 videos ago on the channel, you can see that I make Hyderabadi biryani. And how do you cook the rice perfect for biryani? That's a really good question. So how I cook my rice, I use 1121 hybrid rice. It's the longest basmati in the world. But there's no point buying the best rice unless you cook it properly, because it'll turn mushy and you'd have wasted your money. So what I do, I get my rice, I pour it into a large pan. I wash the rice under the tap with water until the water is clear, and then I soak it for about half an hour, or usually the time it takes to gather the rest of the ingredients, and then I put it from cold water on a pan and slowly heat it up. I add some salt, I add a little bit of vegetable oil, a little bit of lemon juice, and I cook it very slowly. After about 6 or 7 minutes on a very gentle heat, the rice expands, it doubles its size, and then I cook it for 1 more minute. Then I take it out and then I let it drain, and then the rice is allowed to rest for about 15 minutes until it goes cold, and then you've got your great biryani rice there that's already 90% cooked to add to the biryani. So let's have a look. Any more questions? Let's have a look. I recommend you get some pennies rolling in. Bought some of your books as Christmas presents. Well, that's very nice. Thank you very much. You know, it's a good time to announce that I have a new book out as well. I haven't made any mention of it on the channel before because it's taken about 6 months, all during the lockdown. I've been not making so many food videos because I've had to take photos of all these dishes for the photos for the book. So this book is fully illustrated. It's called A Culinary Passage from India, and if you look on Amazon now, because it's fully colour, it's $19.99. I'm not happy about that because the printing costs are very expensive, and Amazon also takes 60% of the royalties. So if you only make a couple of pound on it, it's still $19.99, which is not what I wanted. I wanted it to be affordable and good value for what you get. But the good news is it's uploading to Kindle probably in the next week. I'm finding it very difficult to upload the book to Kindle because of the formatting and getting all the pages right. But something I started today, and the Kindle book should be available for approximately £8. I'm not really sure yet. And another option, it's going to be available on eBay at Taste of India for a lot cheaper. I'm not sure how much it's going to be. So the lamb is going in now. We've got about 500 gram or half a kilo of lamb. Important to get any of that fat. That's where you're going to get your flavour off the bowl, and the lamb's going to be stirred in. And you can hear it's not boiling, it's reduced the temperature of the sauce, but that's going to be really nice. It smells absolutely delicious. I wish we had a better angle on the camera, but I believe you can't zoom in. Let's have a look. Can you zoom in? No, I can't zoom in on it. But let's have a little close-up anyway. Look at all the splashing. I go through so much kitchen cleaner, and the pour cooker once again. So it's looking really thick and hearty. So let's have a look at the comments again. If you could only eat one curry again, what would it be? That's a really good question. I'm not really sure. I like to go through phases with curries. Sometimes I just love chickpea curries. Other times I like things like chili paneer, paneer masala, kadai paneer, mixed vegetable masala. So I'm more of a vegetarian style of curries. They're my favourite. I couldn't possibly tell you what my favourite curry is. But when it comes to roti, I can tell you that every time I go to a restaurant, when it's an authentic Indian restaurant, I always order a tandoori roti because they're very hard to cook at home. It's like a naan bread, but it's a chapati. So it's a chapati done in the tandoor. So I always eat that. So live chat. So let's have a look. Which oil is used mostly by restaurants? That's a good question. Well, if you have a look out the back of any restaurant, you'll see a range of large tubs out for the rubbish. Usually they can use everything from olive oil pomace, which is a mix of vegetable oil and different grades of olive oil. They can use vegetable oil, or rapeseed oil is a nice healthy one. Most vegetable oils are made from rapeseed oil, and obviously vegetable ghee. Vegetable ghee by Kaiba is a really good and popular oil that they use. But you know, any neutral oil is fine. They don't want to buy anything too expensive. Everything is about good service, good curries, and of course profit margins with restaurants. So yeah, just regular oil, it really doesn't matter. Some people use ghee for more authentic or heavier recipes. You get that nice glossy sheen on it. So anybody got any questions? It's a pity that I can't hear you guys speak, and I've just got to rely on the screen. It's a bit odd here talking to myself for 32 minutes now, really, with a couple of text messages coming in. So this is a curry that I saw being made in Maya restaurant in Alphastone. I have a nice video of behind the scenes in that restaurant, and the food's always really, really, really good. So you notice I use the salt as a cooking process for the onions. In most foods or cuisine of the world, people add the salt to the onions when they're frying them, because it helps to soften the onion, it helps bring the moisture out of the onion, and it helps the onions fry evenly. So anytime you're using salt like that in the beginning, always check your salt. That's just right. So that's looking really good. It's got the right amount of moisture, and the lamb was already soft, so it's going to be super soft. Just really waiting for the pumpkin to soften now. Once the pumpkin softens, that takes quite a long time, so I do know that all the spices are cooked out. The acidity or raw flavours of the tomato has been cooked out as well. But very impromptu video. I didn't put any thought into the wording and that type of thing. So as soon as I realised, oh crikey, I'm going to be cooking this for quite a while, that's when I decided to do that impromptu history lesson, really, about authentic Indian food. So apologies if it didn't come over 100%, but I think I got the point across. Indian food is different all over the world, and we need to respect other people's differences. That is the bottom line. Not saying, oh, that's not the way to do it, or there's better ways to do it and less better ways to do things, but you know, Indian food is not only in India, it's all over the world now. So that is going to cook down for probably another 5 minutes, just to make sure that's really well cooked. Let's have a look at the chat. Do you work for an Indian restaurant? No. No, I don't. If you work for an Indian restaurant or any other restaurant, it's not about how well you cook. It's about how well you can multitask, It's about how well you can plan ahead. It's about having all your prep done, and it's about you know, cooking multiple curries all at the same time. A lot of people think you know, to be a chef in a restaurant is all about cooking. It's not. There's a lot of intelligence needed. Really, you've got 6 orders coming in, and you know, various tables that you've got to cook curries for. To have all those cooked and on time all at the same time, and it requires a lot of teamwork as well. You know, there'll be one chef on the curry, then you know, there'll be one chef doing the naan bread, there'll be one chef frying the onion bhajis, there'll be one chef on the rice, and it all has to be cooked all at the same time. So building a good team is also really part of a successful restaurant as well. So let's have a look. Got these notifications on the screen. When I cook a curry for 1 or 2, it always tastes amazing, but as soon as I try to cook a bigger batch for say 8 people, I don't get the balance of flavours right. Have you got any tips? Yes. So what I would say for scaling up ingredients for bigger batches, yeah, you're right, for 1 or 2, most YouTube channels only cook for 1 or 2 because it makes sense. So what you do, you use all the regular ingredients the same. You know, you double up or whatever. If you're cooking for 2, you'd use 1 tablespoon of ginger and garlic. If you're cooking, so you scale up all the ingredients. You use more ginger and garlic. You use more onions, more tomatoes, more of the main ingredient, whether you're cooking lamb or chicken. But what you do, you only scale up the spices about 50% for up to triple. So if you're using a tablespoon of curry powder for 2 people, I would only recommend using about just under 2 tablespoons for 4. And because the more you have in your pan, the more cooking it takes. And that's turned off now, the oil split. So let me just finish up really. What the problem is the more you have in your pan, the lower the temperature is going to be. So you've got to cook it for longer, for more quantity. Like I mentioned, you know, you've really got to cook the onions out nice and slow. You've really got to reduce the acidity of the tomato puree. That takes some time. You know, even for quite a small batch, it takes about 10 minutes. So you've got to cook it a lot longer. So let's have a look here. So I hope that answered the question. So double up on everything besides the spices and cook it for a lot longer. Cook it until the oil splits, and I'm sure that it'll taste a little bit more balanced. And it's something you can, you know, it's trial and error really, but there's a couple of tips to start you off. So I'm about to end the broadcast. Let's have a look at this curry. So I'm happy with that. And I really appreciate everybody watching. So do you use a tandoor yourself ever? The only time I use a tandoor is when I'm in the restaurant, and it takes a lot of skill because the heat coming off that tandoor, you've got to be really quick. You've got to really know what you're doing. So a little bit of practice. So many a times I've burnt the hairs off my arms, and that's the sign of a good tandoori chef. He'll have no hair on his arms, and he will definitely have some scars and things like that where he's you know, touched the sides of the pot. So thanks for doing this live chat, really good. Oh, thank you very much, Bourbon, great. Thanks, Chutney Ferret, that's a funny one. Yeah, thank you very much, Say Ganesh. Yeah, I appreciate everybody that joined. Thank you very much, and I think you've all been really patient if you've watched all that, because it only occurred to me that, wow, this is going to take over half an hour when I started cooking. So the next time I go live, I've learned something today, and that's the important thing. I'm going to be using all pre-cooked vegetables or meat, and everything's going to be, you know, none of the slow cooking, unless, you know, this long-winded explanation of all different types of things becomes popular, which I very doubt. So thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, and there's nothing better than this curry now because outside is freezing cold Thank you very much. How do I turn it off?